All right, this is the copyright disclaimer. The copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
Marijuana isn't illegal because it's dangerous. It's illegal because of racism. In 1937, Harry Anslinger, the first commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, launched a war on cannabis. But it wasn't about the drug, it was about black people. Anslinger said, and this is a direct quote, "Reefer makes darkies think they're as good as white men." He targeted black jazz musicians specifically, Billie Holiday, Louis Armstrong, Dizzy Gillespie. He couldn't arrest them for making music, so he arrested them for marijuana. He testified to Congress that marijuana caused black men to become violent. Pure racism dressed up as drug policy. The Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 passed, giving police legal permission to raid black neighborhoods and arrest black artists. Fast forward to Nixon. His own advisor admitted the war on drugs was designed to disrupt black communities. Mass incarceration exploded. Black Americans are still arrested for marijuana at 4 times the rate of white people, even though usage rates are the same. It was never about public safety. It was always about control. Comment if this was never taught in your school. Follow for the policies they don't want you to question.
This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 10, and it reads, For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Raha Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching me this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Ayashah Barazal from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone, coming back at you with another lesson that is both edifying to the elect and uplifting, both edifying and uplifting to the elect body of the nation of Israel. All right. As you saw in the introductory video about the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, I saw that and I said, well, let me look this up and see if it's true. And here it is. I found this article called Drug Policy Facts. It says knowledge is power. I'll put a link to this article in the description box. All right. And this is just, Esau's ways of putting hell on Jake. You know, um, as you heard, he couldn't criminalize those certain singers for singing, so he got them for marijuana. Okay, and Jake is jailed 4 times as much for equal amount of usage. You know, that's how you get those increased FBI statistics. When you come up with those facts, about Jake being arrested. All right, and then come to find out, he's exonerated more than he's arrested. All right, but yeah, that's what this devil does. Okay, comes up with laws just to get Jake in trouble. And like I said, this goes all the way back to 1937. Like you said in the video, you spring forward to Nixon, and then you go forward with the Biden and the Three Strikes Act, and then people don't realize that crime bill of 1994 under Biden was retroactive. Okay, it didn't start from the point that the law was passed. It counted what you already had on the books. That's so they can get you in prison faster. Okay, if you already had stuff against you. All right. So yeah, this devil is just something else. All right. So let me go ahead and get into the article. This is the Marijuana Tax Act, Salakia. Going back to that opening scripture, Obadiah 1 and 10, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob. That's talking about Esau Edom, the so-called white man. Okay, all right. We know that's him, and it's not about color; it's about that seed line, because you got a lot of chocolate Edomites out here. All right, but Esau Edom, who is primarily the so-called white man. Okay, all right. He's the red one. He is not white. Okay, Genesis 25 and 25 tells us that. All right. He is not white. White means without moral impurity, and we're finding out every day in real time, you know, 365, 24/7, that there's nothing morally impure about this man's character. All right, just wicked, as the scriptures call him, according to Malachi 1 and 4. All right, and it says that his shame is going to cover him, and that's what it's doing. You're seeing it at the highest level right now. You know, the distractions from the real terrible stuff that they did in those Epstein files. And, we still don't know everything yet. All right. But what has come out is just awful. And it speaks to that, the clear nature of those people. All right. It says, that shame shall cover you. And that's what it's doing. That's why they're reacting to what they're doing, causing distractions and stuff. All right. Going after Bill Cosby. For real, his case has been done with, you know, but now it's back in the news. All right, all this celebrity stuff, all of them are distractions to keep you from knowing what's going on at the next level with these devils. All right, and then it says, he shall be cut off forever. So yeah, that's the point we're coming to, and then a lot of them know it. We're seeing videos every day about the brothers. Esau is beginning to know his fate. All right. Starting to sink in that they are the biblical Edomites, okay? The people who are cursed to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai's judgment, as it states in this scripture, and later on in the scripture too, which I'm going to get to. All right, so I'm going to get into this article here. It says, the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 and federal prohibition. Marijuana essentially became illegal in 1937, pursuant to the Marijuana Tax Act. The use of marijuana required the payment of a tax or use for usage. Failure to pay the tax resulted in a large fine or stiff prison time for tax evasion. Drug prohibition was elevated to another level by targeting marijuana, a plant that had never demonstrated any harm to anyone. And see, that devil said it made so-called black men violent. All right? Here you got the wicked, the most wicked man on earth, that is the wicked, saying that this drug makes Jake's violent. Okay, let me get a scripture here. This is the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 23 and verse 15. And it reads, the man that is accustomed to opprobrious words will never be reformed all the days of his life. And that word opprobrious means to bring shame and disgrace. Okay? And we know according to Revelation that Esau Edom is the accuser of our brother. He'll put the stuff out there and say, look what he did, look what he did. But he's responsible for putting it there. All right? And he says that he's accustomed to opprobrious words. The scriptures tell us there's nothing but lies and deceit under his tongue. All right? That's just the nature of this bastard, And it says he will never be reformed all the days of his life. How do you know that's talking about him? As the scriptures say, who can bring a clean thing out of one that's unclean? No, not one. All right? Consider the work of the Most High. Who can make straight which he have made crooked? All right? No. Sirach 33, he's made as the Lord, as he likes him best. All right? Wicked, that's the way he created him. Well, I'm in Sirach. Let me go ahead and grab that. Sirach 33, just to prove the point. Start at verse 13. And it reads, as the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it at his pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that made him to render to them as liketh him best. Good is set against evil, life against death, so the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. So look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are two and two, one against another. All right, and that's what this is all about right now. The righteous versus the unrighteous. The righteous being Jacob, the unrighteous being Esau Edom, the so-called white man. Jacob, the righteous being the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, so let me get back to the article. All right, pop that out of there. It says, Anslinger's Harry J. Anslinger, the first commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, efforts to eradicate marijuana continue when Anslinger sought similar anti-narcotic laws against marijuana at the state level. Guided by Anslinger's policy direction, states began passing their own laws or adopting more strident versions of federal laws. And let's get that word strident, define that word strident. Loud, harsh, grating. Okay? Loud, harsh, and grating. All right? So going back to that. Oh, I lost my article. Give me 1 second here. All right. So adopting more strident or harsh, versions of federal laws. Okay. It says by 1952, nearly all states had anti-narcotic laws in place. All right, and we know once again, those laws were meant to attack Jake. Here you have all your sources right here. I'll put a link to this article in the description box. All right, let me get some scriptures. This is the book of Isaiah 10:1. It says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. And that's just what he did. He built this case, to bring grief to Jake. All right. And again, Jake was using the marijuana as much as Esau, but he's incarcerated 4 times as much. Now, okay, just want to make it clear, I've never used it and I'm not endorsing it according to this video. All right. But, in my mind, if Jake knows that, he's going to get a harsh time for, using the substance, then this his counterpart, Esau Edom, don't use it. If you know you're going to get the worst end of the judgment of this man's laws, don't use the shit. Just that simple. You just had, what's his name? Jesse Jackson. He passed away. He was, trying to make that argument with crack cocaine. Why are you giving so-called blacks, a harsher sentence for crack cocaine, and the white man a lesser sentence for the regular cocaine? Hey man, don't use the shit. Period. How about that? Don't use that shit. Period. Especially if it's going to give you 3 times the sentencing. That stuff was made in a lab. They put that in the communities for Jake. And it messes you up worse once you get addicted to it. But, he's supposed to be a so-called leader. No, don't use the stuff. All right? And then right after so many Jakes were incarcerated because of marijuana, combined with that crime bill by Biden, they open it up and let Edomites have these cannabis places. You made it legal, but Jake's still serving that time. All right. Now you think he's going to, let Jake out? No, he's trying to destroy Jake. All right. Just because he made it illegal, that wasn't for you. All right. All of his laws are just like it says in Isaiah 10:1, to bring grievousness unto Jake. All right. This is Psalms 94 and verse 20. It says, "Shall the throne of iniquity," that's Esau, Edom, your elites, rulership, "have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by law?" That's exactly what that dude did. He had the power to get a law passed, okay, to grieve Jake. All right. And like it says, it goes on. It says, "They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn innocent blood." Yeah, that whole Congress, as we do through all of these "For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob" videos, it is abundantly clear that this government has a whole lot of blood on its hands when it comes to the demise of Jake. Yet Jake is still asking this system for reparations. It's not gonna happen, especially now that we know that the current U.S. government is in lockstep with Amalek. All right, the imposters occupying the land right now. They are in lockstep with him. And the Lord said he would have war with Amalek from generation to generation. We know those people have stolen our identity. We know that not only did they finance the transatlantic slave trade, they own the ships and the insurance companies. Okay? So, yeah, they're all working together. Like it says in verse 21, they gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn innocent blood. That's exactly what they do. We have that Confederate in Psalms 83 of all those other nations, but hell, Esau is doing one hell of a job on his own. The nation of Edom. All right. Verse 22, it says, "But the Lord is my defense, and my power is the rock of my refuge. And he shall bring upon them their own iniquity, and shall cut them off in their own wickedness. Yea, Yahweh our power shall cut them off." So everything that you've done to us, Esau, physically through your policy, you know, all that sin is going to be brought against you. All right. In that day of judgment. All right. And it says you're going to be cut off, no longer exist. Once you do your 1,000 years of slavery, under our rulership, okay, and you do what you did to us, but in righteousness, okay, it's not, there's no escape from it. Once you do that, you're going to be burned up and done away with. Obadiah 1 and 18 says that. All right. But what I want to do is get the scripture for you people, Edomites that are living today, that don't think you're going to be affected by the actions of your forefathers. I'm going to close out with this one. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 21 and 22. It says, "Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers." Yeah, the sins of your fathers are going to be visited upon you, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. You will never be in leadership or rulership again once this is over. All right? 2 Ezra 6 and 9, "For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning with their follow." Once we come in rulership, that's permanent. All right? Because we'll have those new bodies. Okay? That's going to be a permanent rulership. All right, like I said, the saints are going to take the kingdom and possess it forever and ever, even forever. All right. It says, verse 22, for I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh Bashem Yahushai of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son and nephew, saith Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right, so when you cut off the name, okay, the name of Edom, the remnant, what's left behind, and son and nephew, okay, that's the entire seed line. All right, the entire seed line will be eliminated. You know, I said that was going to be, you know, that's in Obadiah, the book we started out in. Let me get that. Obadiah 1 and 15. 18, Slakia. Okay. It says, and the house of Jacob, that's the southern kingdom, shall be a fire. And the house of Joseph, that's the northern kingdom, shall be a flame. And the house of Esau for stubble. And they shall kindle in them. All right. That's to both nations coming together, you know, after you served your slavery, you know, for the appointed time. All right. Both nations, Israel coming together. You know, as scripture says, by the hand of my people Israel. You know, he gonna do unto Edom according to his vengeance. I believe that's Ezekiel 25, verse 12 through 14. All right. He says, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai have spoken it. And that's it. That's it. Like Obadiah 1 and 10 said, you know, for your violence against us, you know, shame is going to cover you and you're going to be cut off forever. All right. There it is right there in black and white. So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. Once again, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rahak HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who were well in teaching me this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like it to the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom, Kwam Yasharala, Abba, Shalom.